Hi, my name is Master Josh Arcemont. I started training in martial arts in 1986. So to paint a picture for you guys, I was born in 1978. Around that time, karate, judo, and kung fu were big. So you gotta remember, this was after Bruce Lee, and this was right before the explosion of the Karate Kid. So around 1982, I was 4 years old. Ninjas were huge. Everything you looked at from G.I. Joe to the movies had ninjas. So me as a kid, 4 or 5 years old, I looked at ninjas as like superheroes. I can remember being really into G.I. Joe at the time. And Storm Shadow was a big character. He was this ninja guy. He was kind of mystical. He wore a mask. And every time he was in a fight, he was using kicks and punches. I just thought that was so cool. I was really into ninjas. So 1986, 87, when I first saw the Karate Kid, it was the first time that I realized, man, wait a minute, I can do that? I can be a ninja? I had no idea that this was something that you could actually do. Soccer, baseball, football, those are the sports that I knew of. I had no idea you could do karate. Taking martial arts to me was like becoming a real life superhero. So at that time, kids weren't really involved in karate. And because of the movie Karate Kid, a lot of parents and kids started flocking to martial arts schools. I was a part of that generation. I first got my white belt, yellow belt, and orange belt in karate. But after a few years, I was one of 3 kids and then 2, and pretty soon I was the only kid in the entire school. I eventually quit. I went on to try other sports like I said before, baseball and soccer, swim team. I played the drums, I played the viola in school, I did Boy Scouts. But as I got into middle school, I started seeing a little bit, more violence. My school was a little rough around the edges, and so there were a lot of fights, there were gangs, and I remember being scared at times on the bus or in the hallway wondering what would happen if I got jumped, because I saw this happen a lot. And I hated the feeling of feeling insecure. I hated it more than anything, and I didn't want to live my life afraid anymore. So I started thinking to myself, man, I wonder what would happen if I never would have quit martial arts. So my 9th grade year, I started begging my parents to sign me back up. I started getting magazines, black belt magazines, and reading books. See, I would get these magazines and I would look at all the different articles, and I started noticing this guy named Bruce Lee. And I decided to get his first book, which is called The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. So 1993, I moved to a new school, and I was sitting there in class one day reading the book, and this kid next to me looks over and says, "Hey, you like that stuff?" And I was kind of hiding it, but he told me, "I do Taekwondo. I'm a green belt. You should come to my school and check it out." So I did. And I can remember the sounds coming from the school, the kiops, the people hitting targets. After the first day, I was hooked. And from that day on, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start back as a white belt, and decided to start this journey over again, now a little mature, going through different changes in life, having, a little bit older and a different understanding of what martial arts was. I decided to dedicate my time and my life at that moment to the martial arts. Little did I know that a year after that, I would see my first UFC. Back then they called it Ultimate Fighting Championship, and it was style versus style. So karate versus kung fu, and jiu-jitsu was the new martial art that I'd never heard of that ultimately won, and a man by the name of Royce Gracie won. So it all kind of happened around the same time. I took Taekwondo, I got my white belt and my yellow belt, and then I really got introduced to jiu-jitsu and really the idea of Bruce Lee and mixing styles together. And later on, they would call these no-hold-bars tournament, these Ultimate Fighting Championships, they would call them MMA. And so that was the birth, and that's how I got started in martial arts training.